Welcome back to my channel. In the last session on basic antennas for radio communication, we learned about horizontal dipole antenna and inverted V dipole antenna. Horizontal dipole antenna had an impedance of around 70 ohms, while inverted V antenna had an impedance of around 50 ohms. Now we'll go into another type of dipole antenna, that is the folded dipole antenna. The other two were half wavelength antennas, while folded dipole antenna will be a full wavelength, that is one half wavelength on top and another half wavelength below that. So total it becomes a full wavelength antenna, that is a folded dipole antenna. Folded dipole antenna can be considered as one half wavelength at the top and one half wave, that is quarter plus quarter. This is two half wave dipoles connected together. This distance d between the two elements will be much smaller compared to the wavelength of the radio wave. So this is a negligible or very small distance compared to the wavelength. That is how a folded dipole is connected, and the feed line is in the center. Difference is in the impedance. Usually half-wave dipole antenna has an impedance of around 70 ohms, while this has 4 times the impedance, that is around 280 ohms is the characteristic impedance of this folded dipole antenna. So if you are feeding with the usual 50 ohms or 75 ohms cable, then you need an impedance transformer. An impedance transformer is needed, typically 4:1. Typically a 4:1 transformer is needed for impedance matching. If you are not using that, there is another option. Earlier, folded dipole antennas were part of Yagi antennas used for TV reception. Now we are all using mostly cable TV, which doesn't have a direct antenna. You only need the cable and the service provider. When the Yagi antennas were being used, this folded dipole used to be the driven element of the Yagi antenna. And then most of the time it was fed using a twin lead cable. Twin lead cables means two leads on either side, and in between there will be an insulator. This has an impedance of around